First and foremost, it just revealed the kind of character that we have. The toughness, the relentless spirit, the flexibility.
The situation across the league continues to spiral, and the entire system now feels dangerously close to a full collapse as decisions from those in charge seem to deepen the instability rather than resolve it. What once stayed within normal basketball discussion has expanded into something much larger, with fans describing it as an internal uprising within the WNBA, heavily focused on its most visible and influential figure, Caitlin Clark. This rising tension has already led to a significant public fallout, as a respected head coach withdrew completely from the spotlight, stepping away from media presence and public engagement. Her exit is being interpreted by many as more than just leaving a role, but also distancing herself from accountability, mounting fan pressure, and the constant criticism coming from an increasingly vocal audience. As emotions continue to rise, the inability to control the narrative has only intensified the sense of disorder, with reactions involving figures like Stephanie White now becoming part of a wider debate about pressure and visibility in today's sports world. What is unfolding is widely seen as a structural breakdown happening in real time, where stability is fading and the entire sports landscape is witnessing every development as it happens. The mainstream sports media continues to push a carefully constructed narrative, repeatedly framing everything as standard rookie treatment and routine physical basketball, yet an increasing number of fans are no longer accepting that explanation. A large and growing audience that is investing time, money, and emotional energy into the league is openly questioning what they see as unfair treatment toward Caitlin Clark, and that frustration has now reached a point where it cannot be easily dismissed or ignored. Even Stephanie White, head coach of the undefeated Connecticut Sun, found herself drawn into the center of the controversy after a matchup against the Indiana Fever, where many viewers believed Clark was subjected to excessive and unnecessary physical contact that fits into what critics describe as a broader and increasingly consistent pattern across the league. From the perspective of frustrated fans, the approach appears straightforward. When opponents cannot match her skill or contain her offensively, the response shifts towards sustained physical pressure and aggressive contact. This time, however, the reaction was far more intense than isolated criticism, erupting into a widespread wave of outrage across social media that elevated the entire debate about the league's physicality and officiating to a completely new level. A massive wave of frustration spread rapidly among fans of Caitlin Clark, a growing audience many now see as a major driver behind the league's surge in attention and popularity. Supporters voiced exhaustion over what they believe is repeated physical punishment against the league's biggest star, and that anger quickly spilled onto social media, where comment sections under posts from Stephanie White and the Connecticut Sun were flooded with criticism. Fans described the style of play as unacceptable, accused teams of targeting Clark unfairly, and demanded stronger protection for star players instead of allowing excessive physicality to continue without consequence. The discussion became relentless, with thousands questioning whether the sport was drifting away from fair competition into something more personal and controversial. Many supporters also pointed to jealousy and resentment toward Clark as a possible factor, arguing that her impact has already reshaped the future direction of the WNBA. As the outrage built for hours, it turned into a full digital storm from fans convinced the league was failing to properly support its most influential rising star. The situation escalated further when White suddenly deleted her X account and stepped away from public view, a move that many fans immediately interpreted as a response to the mounting criticism and pressure surrounding the ongoing debate. There is simply no convincing explanation left for what fans believe is happening around Caitlin Clark, and the outrage has grown far beyond a few angry comments online. This situation has turned into a serious crack within the entire WNBA structure, especially after Stephanie White, the coach of an undefeated team, disappeared from social media following intense backlash from fans the league heavily depends on for growth and survival. Supporters are sending a loud and direct message that they no longer trust the narrative being pushed around the league, believing there is resentment, unfair treatment, and a coordinated effort to diminish the league's biggest star. Many fans are refusing to support a product they feel is damaging its own future, And that frustration is creating enormous pressure across the organization, from veteran players to coaches and media figures connected to the old guard. Critics now believe the league has unintentionally created a toxic us versus them atmosphere that continues to divide players, fans, and personalities across women's basketball. What makes the backlash even more explosive is the belief that major media outlets tried to downplay the controversy and present everything as normal competition, only for millions of passionate new viewers to reject that explanation completely and push back harder than anyone expected. The league completely underestimated how emotionally and financially invested millions of fans have become in Caitlin Clark, and what started as a basketball controversy has now expanded into something far larger and more intense. To many supporters, this moment represents a cultural clash between a rising superstar and an established system that they believe feels threatened by her popularity, influence, and ability to reshape the entire sport. Clips of hard fouls and highly physical plays involving players like Chindi Carter and Tiara McCowan continue circulating widely across social media, intensifying outrage from fans who argue that the treatment Clark receives goes beyond normal competitive basketball. Critics claim that what is unfolding game after game no longer resembles standard defensive play, but instead points to a pattern of excessive physicality that the league has not adequately addressed. Supporters also believe that veteran players are struggling to adjust to the attention and spotlight Clark has brought to the WNBA, creating visible tension in nearly every matchup. At the center of the frustration is the perception that referees and league officials have not taken strong enough action to control the escalating physical nature of the games, leaving many viewers convinced the situation is either being ignored or poorly managed. Whether accurate or not, that belief has spread rapidly online, and now millions of fans feel they are witnessing a league-wide controversy unfold in real time every time Clark takes the court. From the very start, fans have become more and more frustrated by what they perceive as relentless physical pressure surrounding Caitlin Clark, including off-ball contact, constant grabbing, and aggressive defensive actions that many believe stretch beyond normal basketball. Some critics argue that coaches like Stephanie White have been linked, fairly or unfairly, to approaches that focus more on wearing Clark down physically rather than simply trying to beat her through skill and execution. As this frustration spilled heavily onto social media, White stepping away from online platforms was interpreted by some supporters as a sign she could not handle the rising wave of criticism tied to the ongoing controversy. For many fans, that moment became symbolic of a league suddenly under intense public scrutiny from a massive new audience that is louder, more visible, and far less willing to stay silent than before. A large portion of viewers believe the WNBA did not expect this level of attention, yet the backlash has now grown into a wider debate about fairness, officiating, and how the league manages its most important stars. Financial pressure has only intensified the discussion, as comparisons are constantly made to earlier seasons when attendance and mainstream coverage were significantly lower. Now, with sold-out arenas, viral moments, and unprecedented engagement surrounding the Indiana Fever, supporters argue that Clark's presence has permanently shifted the league's visibility and momentum in a way that can no longer be ignored from here forward. Almost instantly, Caitlin Clark became the central driving force behind the WNBA's surge in popularity, visibility, and revenue growth. Around the league, ticket prices climbed sharply, television ratings broke long-standing records, and her jersey sales reached historic levels rarely seen in professional sports. Fans have watched her arrival bring unprecedented attention to women's basketball, creating enough momentum and financial impact to contribute to major league changes, such as the approval of charter flights for every team. For supporters, Clark is no longer viewed as just a standout rookie, but as the most significant business asset the league has ever had. Because of that, many viewers are surprised by what they see as limited protection and support for the league's most valuable emerging star. Fans argue that any well-run organization would prioritize safeguarding a player capable of drawing millions of new viewers, selling out arenas, dominating media coverage, and reshaping the future direction of the sport. Instead, critics believe the league should be fully centering its marketing, media strategy, and promotional efforts around Clark's popularity, since her influence has already elevated the visibility of the WNBA to an entirely new level. Many fans believe the WNBA should have fully embraced Caitlin Clark as the central figure of the league, shaping its identity and long-term future around the unprecedented attention she has brought to women's basketball. Instead, critics argue that the opposite has unfolded, with rising frustration over physical play, public criticism from veteran players, and ongoing debates about her popularity dominating weekly headlines. Supporters feel that some established stars and personalities have focused more on questioning Clark's rapid rise than acknowledging the massive exposure and financial growth now benefiting the entire league. To many angry fans, this creates the impression that resentment and jealousy are fueling unnecessary division at a moment when the sport has its greatest opportunity for global expansion. A large portion of viewers believe the WNBA has been given a rare, once-in-a-generation talent capable of transforming ratings, ticket sales, sponsorships, and overall mainstream relevance. Yet the league continues to be weighed down by controversy surrounding her treatment both on and off the court. Critics often compare this situation to major turning points in sports history, arguing that successful leagues grow by protecting and promoting transcendent stars rather than allowing negativity and tension to dominate the narrative. For supporters, the WNBA now stands at a critical crossroads that could significantly influence its future for years to come, depending on how it manages the attention, pressure, and expectations surrounding Clark's continued rise. Many fans now see the WNBA as increasingly split between an established core trying to maintain its position and a newer wave of supporters rallying around Caitlin Clark as the emerging face of the sport. Critics argue that certain players, coaches, and league voices appear more focused on pushing back against Clark's rapid rise than embracing the unprecedented attention and financial growth she has brought to women's basketball. On social media, frustration continues to build, with fans flooding comment sections and claiming that mainstream sports coverage is downplaying or overlooking the intensity of public reaction. The backlash grew even stronger after Stephanie White deleted her social media accounts, a move many supporters interpreted as a response to the wave of criticism following games involving the Indiana Fever star. Online discussions frequently accuse the league of allowing tension, resentment, and fear among veteran players to overshadow what they see as a historic opportunity for growth. Whether these claims are accurate or not, the perception has now turned into a wider cultural debate among basketball fans, with thousands arguing that the league is struggling to manage the attention surrounding its biggest breakout star and failing to fully unify at a moment that could redefine the future of women's basketball. Unless NBA leadership steps in, critics argue that the situation surrounding Caitlin Clark and the WNBA could continue to escalate into a broader league-wide crisis, with the central concern being that a generational star cannot be heavily promoted while the environment around her remains marked by physical intensity and public controversy, without risking long-term damage to the product. While supporters of this view describe it as a mix of public relations pressure, competitive tension, and business risk that the league office cannot afford to ignore. And within this narrative, reactions, such as Stephanie White stepping away from social media, are seen by some fans as a sign of wider pressure across the sport rather than an isolated personal choice. With critics also arguing that the league lacks a clear and consistent communication strategy and that the ongoing debates are exposing deeper structural and cultural divisions in how the game is being managed during a period of rapid growth. As the discussion continues to intensify, many fans warn that repeated controversies, whether related to physical play, coaching decisions, or media framing, could begin to affect the momentum the WNBA has recently gained. And they believe sponsors and casual viewers are drawn to stability, star power, and positive narratives, and may become less engaged if the public image becomes dominated by conflict and disagreement. And from this perspective, the league's surge in visibility is seen as fragile and highly dependent on how effectively it balances competitive intensity with the protection and promotion of its biggest attraction in Caitlin Clark, with supporters of this argument maintaining that if controversy continues to dominate headlines, the new wave of attention the league has built could slow down and potentially impact the long-term growth it has worked for over many years. From the very beginning, a growing section of fans believes the WNBA is mishandling its biggest opportunity in decades centered around Caitlin Clark, arguing that the league should be doing far more to protect and promote its top talent rather than allowing constant controversy to dominate the conversation. While supporters of this viewpoint often compare professional sports leagues, pointing to how organizations like the NFL protect quarterbacks with strict rules and penalties, or how the NBA has historically adjusted its style of play to highlight superstar scorers instead of limiting them, and in contrast, critics claim the WNBA has not clearly prioritized its most marketable players, leading to ongoing debates about physicality, officiating, and star protection that now define much of the public discussion. Within that tension, reactions involving figures like Stephanie White becoming part of a broader narrative about pressure, criticism, and the intense spotlight surrounding the league's rapid growth, as fans who share this perspective argue that instead of unifying around rising visibility, the league appears divided over how to manage its surge in attention, creating frustration on all sides. And at the center of it all is the belief that women's basketball is in a critical expansion phase where decisions about branding rules and player protection could shape its long-term future. And whether seen as growing pains or mismanagement, the situation has sparked one of the most heated conversations the sport has seen in years, with audiences closely watching how the league responds moving forward today. From the very start, fans feel like they're watching everything unfold in real time, with endless footage, slow-motion replays, and constant social media reactions shaping strong opinions about what is happening around Caitlin Clark, as every game, whistle, and highlight is broken down online within minutes, fueling a non-stop cycle of debate that keeps the controversy alive far beyond the court. While for a large section of viewers this moment reflects a league under intense pressure trying to balance its traditional identity with a sudden surge of global attention, higher expectations, and a completely new audience that has arrived almost overnight. And as the conversation grows louder, calls for change are becoming more direct, with some fans demanding stricter officiating, clearer rules on physical contact, and more consistent protection for star players as the league continues to expand its visibility. And in this environment, reactions involving figures like Stephanie White have become part of a wider discussion about how quickly narratives form in modern sports and how difficult it is for coaches and players to operate under constant public scrutiny. While social media's speed has turned every moment into instant analysis, where emotion often spreads faster than context. And for supporters, this era feels like a defining turning point in women's basketball, where passion, competition, and media attention are all colliding at once, with some arguing the physical style of play reflects traditional hard-nosed basketball that has always existed, while others believe the league must evolve to better protect its most visible and influential stars in order to sustain long-term growth, resulting in a deeply divided fan base interpreting the same moments in completely different ways. And at the center of it all is a rapidly evolving league experiencing unprecedented exposure, where every possession, every foul, and every reaction now carries amplified meaning in shaping the future of the sport. So stay engaged, stay informed, and keep following the story as it develops.